Welcome back to Spitballin Cards. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about dual autographs. We're actually going to talk about them this time. We missed it last episode. And we're also talking about Juan Soto, if his cards are overvalued, undervalued compared to how he's produced the first few years of his career, and a few more topics. So let's start with the cast. I am Scott Baldwin, Scotty B Cards on YouTube and Instagram. We have Jeff at My Favorite Cardboard. We have Chris, Baseball Card Addict. We have Ty, aka Teapot. And really quick, producer Lance. Hi, Lance.
Hey,
Lance.
welcome.
See Lance and Lance.
Back to the darkness, Lance.
But Lance is here. So make sure you always tell Lance hi in the comments. But overall, the first topic we want to discuss, we've kind of hinted on it a few times, and then time got away from us on other topics. We never got to it. And this was Jeff's topic he wanted to discuss. But this is dual autographs. And the history of dual autographs is very interesting. I don't know if it was the very first one, but one of the very first dual autographs was a Mickey Mantle and a Ken Griffey Jr. dual autograph, which we'll discuss, which is great. There is a history of amazing dual autographs. There's a history of horrible dual autographs where you have a Hall of Fame, all-time great caliber player and a nobody that turned out to be a nobody on the same card. So we're going to say, is this a good thing or a bad thing? So let's just start this off. I'm first going to show a few examples. Actually, no, first, let's ask your opinions before I show some examples. Ty, what are your thoughts on dual autos?
They're amazing. And, you know, autos, they're growing on me a little bit. I know that sounds ridiculous. Having grown up in the 90s with inserts and refractors, that's like what always gets me going. That's the first thing for me that always gets me going, whether it's 90s or ultra modern now. Autos were really cool. One of the best cards I ever pulled in the 90s was a regular auto, not a dual auto, but it was an Autographics Luke Longley, who was the center for the Chicago Bulls when they were winning championships, some of them. And that was really cool. It was out of a hoops box. It was the only box that I ever got to open, like complete box. My parents got it for me for Christmas, and I hit that Longley Autographics. That was really cool. So, you know, I liked autos as a kid. They weren't obviously as popular in the 90s. That was when they started ramping them up with Autographics. That was a big skybox thing. And they obviously have become like the chase now in the hobby. There's something for me that is a little weird about not having met the athlete, and then like you still get the auto on the card. It's really cool. It's like they got the card, but you didn't. It's not. I think when in the past people chased autos, it was like proof that they had an interaction with a person, you know. So that's kind of always been an interesting thing for me with like cut autos as well. Like, is it cool? Is it not cool to have a piece of a check or something? I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. Dual autos are amazing. I like dual cards. I like cards that feature multiple athletes. Some of my favorite Stadium Club image variations are the ones with multiple athletes on them. So when you throw an on-card auto on there, I think it just is like more than icing on the cake. They're amazing.
So I have to say one thing. I've always been kind of hesitant about autographs because they will all fade eventually. All of them are going to fade, especially with the type of pen that they've used in the past. That's always been a concern of mine, not being able to display them. Like I have two cards in my display over here that I'm showing. I'm hesitant to do that with autographs. That's always a concern. But I agree. There's something about autographs that just takes you closer to the player. If it's hard signed on the card, it's great knowing they held the card at one point. One of my best autograph pulls as a kid, it was at my sister's golf tournament in Arizona because she played college golf. And my parents bought me one of those. They still have them today, but they aren't as common. The box with a bunch of random packs. Remember those from like 10, 15 years ago? It was like just 15 random packs for $10. Well, I had a bazooka. Was it bazooka? No, it was Topps Total. Topps Total pack. It's 99 cents. And so I opened it first because it was just to get it out of the way. And I pulled a Dwayne Wade autograph. And I thought that was so cool at like 10 years old. So I still have it today. But now it's probably only worth like $50. Anyways, Jeff, what are your thoughts on these dual autographs?
Yeah, well, you guys touched on a lot of points, both good and bad. I see what Teapot's saying about not getting the interaction with the player. And that's magnified if it's a sticker auto. So if you get a dual sticker auto, you don't meet the players. You get their the players don't even see the card. It's not exchanging hands. So that's kind of disappointing, which a lot of autos are stickers. But one set that does a great job of on-card autos is Topps Heritage. And they usually pair up like a team legend with a modern player from that team. And some of them are really cool. So I know Chris has experience with one in his PC. That's one of the better ones that I've seen. So I think there are a lot of good examples out there. Oh, there's one right now. Yeah.
this card we're looking at now is one that Chris shared over. This is a Sandy Koufax, Clayton Kershaw dual autograph out of Heritage number /5. That's a good dual autograph. I feel like you're pretty excited if you pull that one. Chris, you haven't said anything yet. This is what you shared. So what are your thoughts on this?
I would be so excited to pull this card. I would probably pee my pants and pass out. That card is just absolutely fantastic. And like, yeah, the Heritage dual autos, like Jeff was just mentioning, are probably my favorite dual autos. They for the most part do a good job of getting like the legend and the superstar. There's some just great examples. Like there's an Acuna Hank Aaron, there's a Freeman Hank Aaron, there's an Acuna Freeman, but you can't always hit. They also have an Acuna Christian Pache, which didn't quite work out. So I would actually look at that card and think, if I love Ronald Acuna, that might be a great way to get a cheap Acuna rookie, because I'm pretty sure the Pache auto is only going to pull the value out of that card.
I would say I was a liar if I claim to be a basketball expert. And Ty, please keep me accountable here as I talk about basketball cards. But I'm pretty sure Michael Jordan and LeBron James autograph cards, one of the most efficient ways to get their autographs is to get duals and triples. Because like if you have Dwight Howard on the card with LeBron, it's going to go for less than just LeBron. Is that true?
Wait, you're asking if like a great way to get one of their autos, not their autos.
Let's say you want a LeBron autograph.
Yeah.
A great way to do it is to pair it with someone who's good, LeBron and Dwight Howard versus LeBron and Michael Jordan. But I've even seen, I feel like I've seen some pretty decent Hall of Famers on card with Jordan and LeBron go for cheaper prices than just them by themselves. Yeah. So I don't know what that's about or why. Like Carmelo Anthony on the card hurts LeBron autos for some reason, type of a thing.
Okay. The card we have on screen now is another Heritage. It's Mike Schmidt and Bryce Harper. And I feel like these are perfect. These cards are for like team and player collectors. They are spectacular. Like the two that I have a Freeman Hank Aaron and a Freeman Fred McGriff. And I love those two cards. I am a little concerned, like Scott said, about fading, but nothing gold can stay, Pony Boy. We have to enjoy these things while we can as much as we can.
I also want to point out Heritage holds autographs extremely well, especially blue ink. So if you're concerned about that, go for Heritage over Chrome because Heritage will hold it better. But
yes, I agree. The cardboard should last longer than the Chrome. Certainly, based on.
There was another one you sent. I can't find it, but we'll find it in a second. This is one that I wanted to share. This is Bryce Harper and Mike Trout. This is the definition of a good dual autograph because not only are they good players, Harper and Trout, cool card, cool players, how they're standing, but they each inscribed about the other player. Mike is really, really good. And then Mike Trout responded, Bryce is really, really good. So it was kind of a fun banter back and forth. And it kind of feels like a little bit of history that you're holding in your hand. So that's just one example that I personally.
I thought for a second that Trout's inscription was like a question mark at the end, like a little bit of a dig.
How funny would it be? Bryce is all right.
Yeah, Bryce is decent.
Scott, you bringing up that definitive brings to mind what this year's definitive is going to have as their dual auto, which is the Otani Babe Ruth dual auto. And of course, we've only got one player on card for that, Mr. Otani, and the Babe Ruth is a cut auto, obviously. But that's a really beautiful looking card. And it's going to be fun to see when that gets pulled. Well, there's two of them. There's one with the Red Sox picturing Ruth with the Red Sox and one picturing Ruth with Otani. And there it is on the screen. So you've got the photos of each of them on the side, the on-card auto of Otani in the center middle of the upper part, and Babe Ruth, the cut auto on the bottom.
They did such a cool thing with this. Yeah, with so when it's Otani and Ruth on the Red Sox, they're both pitching. And when it's Otani with Ruth on the Yankees, they're both hitting.
That's really cool.
So there's that little attention to detail there, which is exciting to see.
Topps is getting better in some ways about that, actually. They're becoming more aware of things, I feel like. That's
How do you guys feel about the athletes facing the outward direction of the card versus if they were swapped and inward or like mirrored? I'm like a little anal about that. It's like a little I can't tell if I like it more this way or not. Like it kind of looks like they're going away from each other, like off the card.
I feel like it looks a little weird because they're both left-handed. If one was right-handed, it might look more natural if he was swinging out that way. But maybe that's why it feels weird. I actually thought the same thing, Ty, but I bet if we did reverse it, I don't think producer Lance has time to do that. But if we did mirror it, it'd be interesting to see what it looked like.
Yeah. I don't know. I always when I like put cards on display, I'm always like switching the order of them and making sure they're like closing in on each other, not going weird directions. But
It does look like they're
definitely
both looking off in the distance. They each hit a giant bomb, which is pretty cool. Kind of
Yeah.
makes the world of the card pretty wide.
So let's see what other cool dual autographs that we each shared. Oh, that's a bad example. We're going to save that one. We're going to save that for a minute. So, Ty, you're the basketball expert here more than anyone else. Do you want to share the story behind this card and this card?
Yeah, so this is one of the more underknown auto sets in general, I think, in basketball cards. And NBA hoops basketball is not known for being like a high-end set at all, a product. But I love when manufacturers do find a way to put a really incredible chase into affordable products. And hoops being like a more entry-level product, it's one of the first releases. It's actually the first like full pro jersey release of basketball every year. And this is a dual auto. These are called Hoops Art Signatures. And this particular one we're looking at is Steph Curry and Anthony Edwards. They're on-card autos. They have a really cool sort of like art graffiti looking background. It gives some vibes of like a color blast, but you just sort of abstract art colors. They refract a little bit, and even the players have a little bit of artistic rendering to them. So they don't, it doesn't quite look like a plain photo. They're just very dramatic cards. And in this particular case, in the case of the Steph and the Ant-Man, they both have really nice looking autos. And then this other one is Kobe and Zion Williamson. So you can imagine when Zion came out, this is a rookie, technically his rookie year. When Zion first came out and it was Zion Mania, this card was incredibly popular because of Kobe's passing and Zion.
Yeah.
So really, really nice cards. I see them, usually I'll see one or two if I am able to like walk an entire show floor at a big card show. Like people will have them. But a lot of people, I've heard people like, whoa, what is that? I've never seen that before. So check out the checklist if you're into basketball cards too. And these are definitely really special looking cards and very, very rare.
Cool. And let's see other examples we have shared. Here's a great example. This is one of the best baseball cards of all time, in my opinion, which I think sounds dramatic, but I'll stand by it. This is the 1994 Upper Deck. This is the Mantle Griffey dual autograph. Interesting thing about this card as well is there is a version where just Griffey signed, and there is a version where just Mantle signed. And so I don't know, there's a specific number of each, but overall, I think this also is one of those cards that just blew the hobby's mind at the time, because Ken Griffey Jr. in 1994 was at the peak of his dominance, right? That's before he had the change of teams to the Reds and he slowed down in the later part of his career. But this card was huge for a while. And Jeff or Chris, do you remember this card when you were collecting back in the 90s?
Wow, I feel like it's a slight attack on the Silver Foxes in our chat here, but that's fine. Yes, I absolutely remember this. I can go back. The Find the Reggie was like the first in-pack auto. I think that was 1990. It was 90 or 91. Jeff, do you remember what? I think it was 90.
I think 90 for the Reggie, I think was 90, and Hank Aaron was 91, or was it 90? Yeah, I think that
sounds right. Yeah, there's a Joe Morgan, Johnny Bench too, I think, in one of the subsequent years. But yeah, they were just like myths. You never saw these cards. Like I see them more now. Like back then, you go to a show, people would talk about them. There was like a photo in Beckett people would comment on, but you never saw these things.
And I will say, this card goes for a surprisingly not too bad price relative. Let's be a relative here, right? So I think it goes for like 10 to 15,000, which I don't think is as much as I would expect this card to go for, unless there's been recent sales and I'm mistaken. And I'll check and I will say if I was wrong or not. So that's a great card, great example. Then we have this. This was great by Topps. Only one thing that could have been better with this card is if they would have included Juan Soto from 2018 as well and had a triple autograph. But this card, this is a Shohei Otani, Ronald Acuna Jr. Topps Now dual autograph. And this card's great because of the fact they were rookies the same year. So it has a rookie logo for both of them. It's true rookie auto for both. Plus, they are going to win MVP this year individually and respectfully. So that makes it so it's a dual rookie autograph, but it's also the dual AL and NL MVPs 5-6 years later, whatever it is, which is really cool to me. Obviously not pack pulled, but it is hand signed. And you could have bought this on Topps' website for probably around $1,000, maybe less back in the day. And now it's worth quite a bit more than that. So does anybody want to comment on this one?
Card ever.
You think so? One of the best?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. They've paralleled each other sort of because they both suffered a pretty serious injury earlier in their career. But this is the card from when they both won Rookie of the Year, and now here we are 5 years later, and they're both going to win MVP.
I bet at one point this card wasn't that expensive, which is kind of crazy to think about because Otani's injury, or Otani wasn't playing great and Acuna's injury. Something must have happened where I bet it was actually relatively affordable.
I would love to know the speed with which this card sold out because it's numbered out of 10. So it's probably available on the Topps website for like 3 seconds.
Yeah, probably. And then we're going to show just a few more. This is a Mike Trout, Shohei Otani dual autograph. They actually have a ton of dual autographs, those two. Topps has pushed those out the last 5 years like crazy. And there's even some triples with Albert Pujols included, which is pretty crazy to think. Mike Trout, Shohei Otani, Albert Pujols were all on the same team for years and never did anything. Albert Pujols was older. Otani was hurt for some of it. Trout was hurt for most of it. But when we tell our kids about that, they'll find it hard to believe. I actually this is a humble brag. I went to a baseball game in Anaheim against the White Sox. And Otani, Trout, and Pujols all hit a home run in that game. And Trout hit 2 home runs. So that's like something I can tell my kids someday. But any thoughts, anything on this, or should I jump to the next one?
It sounds like you saw the best of times with those 3.
It was awesome. And then this is one that Chris shared. Do you want to talk about this one, Chris?
Yeah, this card actually just ended tonight, and I made an attempt, but I was a little bit swayed. So this is a 2019 Topps Stadium Club co-signers. So Stadium Club, these are all going to be on card as well, just like Heritage, but it's a front and back versus 2 on the front. So Chipper Jones is on the front and Acuna is on the back. This is really cool. It's numbered out of 10. It's sold tonight for about $350. Which seems like shockingly cheap, right? We got a first ballot Hall of Famer and a guy with a Rookie of the Year and MVP, and on a very far away Hall of Fame track on the same team. This card is cool. Plus, I believe the Acuna image looks awfully similar to the vertical SS.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's the same one.
Quick question, Chris. Do you think it would have went for more if they were both on the front?
Probably.
Yeah, easier to display. Yeah.
It also would have gone for more, Jeff, if you and I hadn't just made that purchase last week. Because someone in this chat would have bid a lot more on it.
We need to talk about that purchase. Do you want to share that sometime over the next week?
Probably not. I don't know. We can talk about it later. I mean,
it's a pretty cool. Maybe this next episode, we're going to talk about stuff we'd like to collect, and that's going to be a good example. So We'll save it. So stay tuned for Monday's episode. We're going to hear about that. And then there's examples of not great autographs, right? So let's look at some not great autographs. Here's one. This is a Derek Jeter, Billy Butler dual autograph. I think it's fantastic, but I don't think maybe outside of 5 or 10 people in the world, this is a pretty crappy autograph. Sticker autographs. This Jeter's like silver ink. You can barely see it. 1 of 1. Billy's is kind of running off card. And on top of that, it's just this set. Upper Deck Exquisite this particular year had some of the most random combinations ever. Billy also has a duel with Cal Ripken Jr. for some reason. Like none of it makes sense. But fun fact about this card, if I asked you which player has a higher OPS plus, who would you guess between Billy Butler and Derek Jeter?
Billy Butler all day long.
If you've listened to the show, you'll know it's Billy Butler.
But obviously, Billy didn't play into his late 30s, which, that hurt Derek Jeter's OPS plus. But either way, that's an example of a bad duel, but cool for like a collector like myself. We can then jump over here to Twitter. We're going to look at this. Here's an example. Jeff, I think this is one you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, there was some chat on Twitter about the worst possible dual autos, and this is a great example. This is Upper Deck, or I think it's Upper Deck, right? Because they're both signed with Upper Deck.
Yeah.
Exclusive. Sport Royalty, and you've got Ben Simmons on here, who is a basketball player and quite a disappointment, along with Shohei Otani. So you've got an Otani on-card auto, but also on the front of the card, right next to him, is Ben Simmons and his auto. So, yeah, this is an example, I think, of what Scott was talking about earlier with potentially getting exposure to great players' autographs by buying one where they're paired with a lesser player.
Definitely. And I will say, we're not going to go too much more into this because we're pretty deep into this episode, but we have LeBron James and Luke Jackson. Not a great combination. Greg Oden and Bill Russell, Tim Tebow and Aaron Hernandez.
That's an
Kobe-
interesting pairing.
That's a very one. We can dive deep in that if we wanted to. But then we have Kobe Bryant and Andrew Bynum. Trubisky, is that how you say his name? Trubisky,
Yeah.
Trubisky. And then Patrick Mahomes, rookie autograph. And then we have a duel of Adam Morrison and Larry Bird. Go Adam Morrison, Gonzaga product. I'm not going to say who's this. Papa.
So it's Giannis and another
Giannis and Papa
player
Giannis.
named
Papa
Georgios
Giannis.
Papagiannis.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
And then we have this triple of Nick Young, Morris Almond, and Vince Carter. How random is that card?
So going back to
overall-
that one right above there, Scott, the Patrick Mahomes, Mitch Trubisky is another one of these cards where one player is on one side and the other one's on the other side. So that one's not bad because you could just display the Patrick Mahomes side.
This one, is it? I think it's a booklet.
Oh, it is a booklet. You're right, Ty.
I think it's a booklet.
This is
joined
from
down the
Origins.
Okay, so you bend the other half of the
Yeah,
book
you just fold it.
around,
Just
middle.
cut
You
it
fold
off.
them in on each other.
or you
My
just put another
You
card
Get it
over
in one of
the
those BGS cases that's like as big as your house wall.
Yeah. My dad actually used to cut his Joe Morgan rookies in half. I have a few of in half Joe Morgan rookies because it featured two players. Do the same thing here. Just cut it. But I will say one note. The last Griffey Mantle dual autograph sold for $5,000 on auction. Before that, it was $7,800. So that's like an example. This card should be going for more, in my opinion, but it is what it is. So, okay,
All right.
dual autographs. Any final thoughts? Obviously, we talked about the good and the bad. Let me just ask you one final question about these. No screen share involved, but if you had the chance to get a dual autograph of your favorite player, let's say from Dynasty, Mike Trout with a nasty patch, or would you rather have a dual autograph with Trout and Otani with bad patches? Yeah, like what do you prefer, dual or the individual?
I would take my dream card is next year when Heritage comes out with an Otani Acuna dual auto, both having won the MVP. I'm going to go balls out to try and get one of those cards. Those are like two of my current all-time favorite players. If they're both on card out of a legitimate set, no stickers, no like fifth tier something. If it's at a Heritage numbered to like 10, I am going to make a hardcore effort to secure that card. And I would rather have that than some kind of like potentially fake patch relic auto. If that
That's a
answers
great
your
point.
Yeah.
Great point. Jeff or Ty, do you have a thought, or are you good to jump
No,
in?
I think I'm in the same boat. It's so hard unless there was a specific patch from a specific event. You get Mike Trout's 300th home run autograph patch or something. But yeah, if you could find two of your favorite players on a Heritage, you can't beat that.
I would just say for people that are listening, if you like the idea of dual autos, just please be careful for two things. Like, try to make sure you're not buying stickers, because a lot of these cards, not in Heritage, not in Stadium Club, there will be sticker autos, and sometimes they're sneaky and tough to pick up. And those are definitely not as cool. And also just like check your pairings. Like Acuna Soto is a really cool dual auto, but there are a lot of them. If you just go to eBay and search like Topps Acuna Soto auto, you will be shocked at the volume of cards that show up. So make sure you're picking one that is special. Like stay in the main set, like Heritage or Stadium Club, if you can.
I'd like to get a dual auto of Miggy and Pujols.
Oh yeah.
And that'd be pretty sweet. So I that's kind of what I've kept my eyes out. I've seen some. There's not a lot, I don't think, but
have you seen the
They're
Miggy,
expensive.
Pujols, and Joey Votto that was just released in Topps Chrome Sonic? It is a sticker, but it has all three of them in Topps Chrome.
no. I don't know.
Hey,
if
let
I
me
wanna
throw
do
one
that.
final thing. Now that Topps Fanatics is getting all the license back, and I've talked about this before, I'd love to see cross-sport duels. So, like, if you pick guys from the same town, so Philadelphia, maybe you got like an Embiid and Bryce Harper auto. For the Brewers, you could get like a Giannis and Yelich auto, or Giannis and Robin Yount. I would love to see some cross-sport pollination. I think those would be great chase cards in either sports sets.
Definitely. It'd be cool if they just released a totally multi-sport random set, kind of like we see with Allen and Ginter, but like even the base cards are just all over the place with cool sports. That'd be fun to open in some way.
I had a custom card made of Barry Sanders and Miguel Cabrera. That's pretty sweet.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Detroit.
Yeah. It's really cool. It has like the lion and the tiger and the two guys. It's really sweet.
Oh, nice.
Very
All righty. Well, let's hop over to Mr. Juan Soto. One thing I want to note that we said incorrectly that I want to just correct so other people don't correct it for us, is we said that Ben Simmons and Otani were Upper Deck exclusive signers. That's not true. Just Ben Simmons was. Otani signed with Topps. So just getting that out of the way. But let's jump into what's that, Jeff?
I was wondering, because that's it, the set on there said Gaudy. Is that it's a trademark but that Upper Deck owns now?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that they did. They own some random old sets. So like Gaudy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's jump over to Juan Soto. Recently, there's been some discussion about Juan Soto not being good, and I want to talk about who Juan Soto is, okay? He is a 24-year-old. Adley Rutschman is older than Juan Soto, and Juan Soto has been in the league for 5 years. He has a batting title, a World Series. He basically could have been the World Series MVP in some ways. He hit that go-ahead home run off of Justin Verlander in Houston. He has a career 157 OPS plus, which is probably, if I had to guess, third or fourth in baseball. And on top of that, career 946 OPS. He has I think I already mentioned, a batting title. He's finished MVP runner-up to Bryce Harper. Could have won. He led the league in WAR that year. And a lot of other great metrics, 28.6 WAR by age 24. But there's the discussion that maybe he's not living up to what we expect from Juan Soto. And the problem with Juan Soto is he has the potential to be good all the time. Like Juan Soto goes through some streaky times where you'll look at him and you're like, oh, he's not having a great year. And then 2 months later, he had the best 2 months of his career, and then his numbers are great again. But he always starts slow, which hurts his values. And it feels like being in Petco hasn't helped down in San Diego. So what are your thoughts on Juan Soto? Is he overly priced, properly priced, or underpriced? Let's hear your thoughts. And I say price, I want to talk about card values, because his card values are some of the most expensive in the hobby currently. Let's go with you first, Chris, because you watched him probably play against the Braves all the time.
I did, and he never gives the bats away. He's a fantastic player. I think part of the reason that people view him as like, I've heard him called a disappointment and not that good, and it's flabbergasting, really. But I think a part of it is the COVID season in 2020 was shortened, but it was watched by a lot of people, and the hobby was booming. And I think besides Trout, maybe the biggest booming player was Soto. And in 2020, he hit 350 with like a 1.18 OPS. Like, he was absolutely otherworldly. His OPS plus over 200. And I feel like that just became the expectation. Like, this is what he is going to do every single season. And it's just not like physically possible for anyone besides Barry Bonds to do that. He actually did it for like 2 months this year, I think, or about 6 weeks. But so is he priced appropriately? I think he is. If anything, I'm going to say yes. Short answer, yes, he is priced appropriately. Jeff, what do you think?
Well, you made a couple points there. I think, like what Scott said, his slow starts hurt him. And especially this year, everybody thought, okay, he's going to have a full year with this new team, a huge high-powered offense, and he had a slow start. And the other thing that hurts him is he walks a lot. And people think, well, he should just be hitting home runs all the time. But that's not the kind of player he is, although he did set a career high in home runs this year as well. But yeah, people talk about him as though that 1 year, like Chris mentioned, that he really excelled in 2020, that should be his norm going forward. But they talk about him in the same breath as like Vladimir Guerrero, who had one great season and has been disappointing since then. And they're completely different. But I think there's just still a little bit of that narrative around him. And his cards, if anything, I think they're properly priced. And if anything, there are still some opportunities to buy, because unlike some of the other ultra modern players, he doesn't have a ton of high end or higher end rookie cards because of when he came up. So I think he's a great player. I think, like Scott said, if he gets out of Petco, where he has struggled, and it looks like now he's probably going to be out of there, I think that just gives him more of an opportunity to show the league what he's capable of. And the Padres being terrible this year and underachieving didn't help him either.
Ty, do you want to share your thoughts on it? I know you just shared a graph with me to show, but do you have any thoughts?
It feels to me like Soto seems appropriately priced. And the only thing I can really figure out, I guess, is, he's not a fielding wizard, obviously, and he's not hitting for insane power, right? So a lot of people are like maybe looking at this complete WAR picture. They're also looking at, power numbers. And for me, it's always been impressive, just his plate discipline. For as young as he's been, going all the way back to when he was on the Nationals, that plate discipline. Maybe that's boring to some people to say, oh, he just drew another walk or whatever. But the bottom line is, like, the guy's one of the best, overall complete hitters at the plate that we have in terms of discipline and not striking out and being a difficult at bat. It is interesting to compare him to some of those other guys and see what the journey has been. And I think I've mentioned this poll before, maybe on this podcast, but the year over year of, like, who do you think is going to have the best career, Tatis, Acuna, or Soto, over and over again? Like, we could keep asking that on a year-to-year basis. And it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out over time. And for sure, in each instance that I've run that poll, each one of those three guys has been like the top vote getter. Obviously, right now, everybody would say Acuna. But that chart I just showed or shared shows that just comparing some Bowman Chrome auto prices, and you have Acuna in its PSA 10. It's Pop 119. Last sold in mid-October for $2.85K. Yeah, so this is a chart from Market Mover showing the Bowman Chrome autos first and PSA 10 of these various players, and you can see, kind of how the prices stack up. And you've got Soto there at just a shade under 1.6K from November 5. Tatis at half of that at $777. And then you've got Acuna at 2.85K and Vladdy at 2.25K. So, when I look at these prices, I think it's kind of interesting. The Soto is a much higher pop than the Vladdy, which Soto's at 231, Vlad's at 82. So I think that certainly has something to do with it. But I don't know just looking at Soto compared to Acuna, I think that price, given everything we've seen, feels about right.
I agree. So I like Juan Soto. I don't collect him as much as I used to. I have a few nicer cards. Like, I have a red ink rookie autograph of his from Heritage, and I have his Topps Chrome Update refractor, numbered to 250. And the reason why I like Soto so much, especially for this era, is he really doesn't have very many cards. He does not have very many sets. In Topps Chrome Update, he has the pink refractor that's not numbered. But outside of that pink refractor, every refractor chrome of his card is a numbered card. And so that type of thing I really like about his cards versus Acuna and Vlad and Tatis. They have all these different sets. There was no Topps Chrome Update Sapphire at the time. Doesn't have a Sapphire rookie. So there's a couple things that make his cards more intriguing to me. Obviously, he signed a ton of Bowman Chrome autographs. He did. His base Bowman Chrome autograph is not particularly rare, but his rookie autographs in general are very rare. And I like that. That's one thing I like about Soto. I want to look at some of his stats really quick. Here's his baseball reference page. For those on Spotify, I will read it off to you. He has a career 157 OPS plus. He had a 158 OPS plus this year. OPS plus is a metric that compares to league average and ballpark factors. And so I bet if we actually looked up MLB league leaders real quick, we're going to see that he probably was top 5 in OPS this year, which is on base plus slugging. He was not. He was number 9. In the National League, he was 1, 2, 3, 4th in the National League. But regardless, in a down year, it feels like he was a disappointment. He still hit 35 home runs. He still had 109 RBI, 410 on base percentage, and he did get his batting average all the way up to 275 because it was low. So I like that. I want to compare him to two players through their age 24 season, one of which is Ronald Acuna Jr. Actually, I think Acuna is 25 now. So Acuna went through his age 25 season. Soto's through his age 24 season. Soto leads him in some categories like WAR, hits, RBI, and then we have OPS, on base percentage, OPS plus. And Acuna leads in home runs, stolen bases, obviously, batting average, and that was passed this year with the great year he had with his batting average and slugging percentage. They both technically have a World Series, but Juan Soto did have a great World Series, and Soto has 4 Silver Sluggers and a batting title. So that's him versus Acuna. Not saying he's better than Acuna. That narrative might have switched this year, and that could switch back, like Ty mentioned. Then the other one I want to compare is to Bryce Harper. Through their age 24 seasons, I think it's clear cut that Juan Soto has the better career through his age 24 season. He leads in basically everything besides stolen bases, and Bryce has a slightly higher batting average by 1 point through their age 24 season and a few more hits. Any thoughts on these two comparisons from any of you?
Yeah, I think obviously when I look at I'm looking for any opportunity to jump in and just prop up Acuna's numbers whenever I can. But I mean, the knee injury cost him so many games. You can see that.
Played, sure.
Yeah, Soto's got about 109 more games than Acuna does. But yeah, that's going to be the fantastic comparison to watch those two columns for those two players go for the next like 10 years. I'm excited to see.
And Acuna is going to add an MVP this year.
Yeah, correct. You have an MVP.
Yeah, he's got one more All-Star game. I mean, that's not really a big deal. It's just a, kind of a superfluous thing. But yeah, the Soto Harper one is pretty interesting because they both came up really young.
Yeah, and I would say that the reason that Soto has even any fewer hits is because he takes so many walks. That's
absolutely.
Otherwise he'd be in that category as well.
A 140 OPS plus.
Far apart.
Yeah, 140 OPS plus versus 157 OPS plus is a huge difference. That's a big swing. So
yeah, Harper does have the MVP, which I mean, Soto could have also had an MVP potentially.
If it wasn't for Harper, Harper took it from him.
For sluggers.
Yeah, Harper, the thing with Harper, he was always boom or bust. So it's not really fair to compare his early years in some ways because we can see he actually had an 817 OPS, 854, 768, 1.109. It goes crazy. 814, and then another 1 dot where he got hurt. Remember that's when he hit the bag and twisted his knee. Remember that?
Oh my God.
Well, then it goes back to what you value more. Do you value those huge seasons or do you value consistency?
Soto has the consistency.
Yep.
That's the one thing is his worst year of his career was in 2020 when he had an 853 OPS during a trade and a contract negotiation. So it's hard to say that he's anywhere remotely how Harper was. But anyways, so I guess for me, value-wise, who knows if he's overvalued at this point. Maybe the best question is if you were holding his cards, I think at least a couple of us have some nice Juan Soto cards. Are you buying, selling, or holding currently? I am holding, leaning, buying myself. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Exactly right there with you. Holding, I would be probably looking to buy more if we didn't have a lot of nice cards already. But still, especially since the market tends to drop even further in late November through December, I'll keep my eye out for Soto.
Yeah, definitely. I think hold, lean, buy is probably the exact way that I feel as well. It's you were talking about how he doesn't have very many rookie cards, and his rookie autos are crazy rare because all those Topps Chrome ones are stickers. So there's a good portion of the hobby that won't even touch those.
Yeah.
So then we're looking at Heritage and Bowman's Best.
Bowman's Best is a good one, but that's it. Well, you have Dynasty, RPAs. You have one other set. You have Triple Threads. He has an on-card autograph. He has at least one more, but
it's a short list. It's about a third of what he has in terms of on-card autos. So I would say when the people we're comparing him to all have significantly more cards available, it's hard to say that Juan Soto's stuff is overvalued if the supply is less.
The one thing I'll say, sorry to cut you off before you answer, Ty, I do think there's a real world if Soto has another slow start for the Padres next year, there's a lot of room to drop on his cards still, though. So there's still we're not saying that there's no risk in his cards. Because I think there's total risk, but I do think there is reward. He is a high risk, high reward type buy, whether it's fair to him or not. That's just how I feel about his cards. Like if I sold something to buy into his cards, I view it as a risky play currently in some ways. Ty, what are your thoughts?
I agreed with your original assessment. Your first one, not your second one. You
don't think it's risky?
No, every modern player is risky. I do think he's risky, and baseball is such a crazy sport. We just talked about the inconsistency of Harper. Like if Soto came out next year and just had some really down year, a really down year, which could happen. Yeah, for sure. Then there's a huge risk because his cards are expensive. But if he winds up going to the Yankees, and just starts and hits 42 or 45 home runs and keeps drawing walks like he does, and becomes a force in that lineup and a Yankee, you're looking at that Bowman Chrome auto going up for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
That's something we didn't touch was the team change that could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to mention what Teapot said before, the way that he handles his at-bats. And I think Chris said it as well. He doesn't give at-bats away. He's got a really mature eye. He's barely into when they when most hitters start getting into their prime. So I feel like, yes, while he's risky because of the way he plays and the way he hits, his risk is lower than some other players who might just be swinging for the fences every time.
I agree with that. He's actually had some okay defensive years. There's a real world. Soto has off years and on years defensively. He was a Gold Glove finalist a few years ago, which is crazy. And then a year prior, he actually had positive defensive metrics across the board and everything. Not average, but like actually positive.
So here's a fun stat for you guys real quick. I just went to StatMuse. Which MLB player had the most walks drawn before the age 25? And number one by a landslide is Juan Soto. A landslide. Yeah. He has 640 walks. And the next closest is Mel Ott with 540.
Yeah.
And then Mantle with 522, Ted Williams 493.
Wow.
And then it just kind of goes down from there. Eddie Matthews.
Yeah, young players aren't known for being patient, taking walks. And I think, while some people may think that's boring, I just think that portends greater at-bats in his hitting prime.
Yeah, it keeps his floor high. Like
Bryce Harper is the next closest active player at 455, and Trout's right behind him. But yeah, I mean, he just, picks his spots.
Yep, I like Juan Soto. I've looking at trying to find a Bowman Chrome refractor autograph, but everybody who has them, they all kind of are thinking the same way we do. And so if you look at the actual realized auctions, they're an affordable price that makes sense, but no one's willing to do that for a trade or best offer. That's kind of what I've come to at this point.
Yeah, if you have one of those apps open, could you tell us when the last numbered Bowman Chrome auto for Soto sold and or went to auction? Because I'm looking for the same thing, Scott, and I see a lot of really high buy it nows or best offer, but I mean, I know those
extremely high. Soto Bowman Chrome auto refractor 2016.
Yeah, and like Ty said, if he gets traded to the Bronx and signs an extension, we could be looking at this fall as a window that we all sort of let pass us by.
This is a pretty good buy. This is a blue Bowman Chrome autograph for $56.50, BGS 9.510 auto.
Nice.
I think if we compare him to Mookie's around 4,000. So I know that's more expensive than MVP, 2 World Series, Hall of Famer already. So people can argue it's a bad deal, but this is a decent price from where they used to be. They used to be like 10 to 15 grand for this card, not that long ago. Actual refractors are sitting 2,250, 2,400.
And it's just a lot of variance too, because we can't see what the 9.5 is. Like Min Gem,
what the subs are, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Fair.
Okay, so that's the blue with a 9 on corners.
But a very good autograph.
Yeah.
Perfect autograph, which to me is more important than a 0.5 difference. I know to others it's not that way, but it's a good auto, which is nice because sometimes you can get streaky.
Yeah, I mean, he probably, like you said before, he probably signed, 4,000 of these.
Yeah, with the base. But we can even see this purple sold in September for 2,200. That could have been one of the best buys. And he surprisingly has hardly any parallels. I know that sounds dramatic, but I think he only has 5 to 7 or something crazy parallels. Maybe there's some random, there's a Twitter refractor. There's random low numbered stuff, a red shimmer. But
we got a free.
He doesn't have very many high or shimmers when it gets higher like other players do now. But yeah, so that's Juan Soto. Any final thoughts on Soto before we wrap this up?
Please trade him to someone besides the Yankees.
I would love Soto on the Yankees.
I want him on the Yankees.
Not in the NL East, American League West. Send him to Seattle, Oakland, maybe.
I would love to see Soto on the Braves too. Actually,
so would Acuna, but I don't know. That's going to be a tough sell to ownership. And
I understand what you're saying. We talked about it last week, and your team because they're publicly traded. They have all these weird situations, but why wouldn't they take a long-term commitment to Juan Soto? There's not his floor is so high. I don't think there's really a world unless he just gets injured where it bites you in the butt, other players could.
I totally agree, but unless Mark Cuban buys the Braves, it's just not going to happen.
Who would you rather have on your team? Juan Soto? This offseason, who would you be more excited for your team to sign? Soto or Otani?
Otani 1, Yamamoto 2, and then probably Soto 3.
Even with Otani's potential injuries, and then he's going to get older than Soto, like that doesn't bug you or
Well, he's
worry you?
already older than Soto. That's not going to change over time. No, not at all. I love Shohei Ohtani. I would, if the Braves were able to sign him. I know I saw there's a story out today that he was intrigued, by the Braves, which is about as non-committal as you could possibly ask for. I would absolutely go to at least like 6 games next year. I would get myself in that stadium to see him hit, without question.
Cool. All right. Any final thoughts before we call this an episode? Jeff or time? Oh, Lance is sharing his screen. Lance, do you have a thought you're wanting to share?
He swapped them. He swapped the guys.
Yeah, I swapped the guys. Take a look.
Oh,
yeah. I think it looks better.
This is a really, really terrible Photoshop job of Babe Ruth and Otani being swapped, but I really think that they should have faced them to each other.
Yeah, that looks better. Actually,
I like it better that way.
Good
One
call.
of the other dual autos you were showing, they were facing each other.
I didn't think I would, but the facing each other
way better. It looks way better.
So Lance and Teapot, I think you need to be the designers for the next.
Yeah, there we go.
Definitive auto.
All right,
everybody. Well, thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and comment. We love to hear your comments. It helps the YouTube channel reach new audiences. Same to Spotify. Make sure you can share it. We'd all appreciate that as well. Feel free to reach out to us on Instagram, on the Spitballin Cards Instagram. Other than that, have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.